enjoyed that.
I'm Jan Petersen, and I get to be the host for this truly original event that takes place in downtown Elko. We're celebrating Nevada Day on the, well, I guess this is the official designated day, but we all know when the real day is, so we'll just party all weekend on it. And we do these to have a fundraiser for the DBA, but also to celebrate our history and our community, dating back to the last week of December 1869. We're celebrating the good, the bad, and kind of the ugly. This year's ghosts this year are Sharon Owen as Mrs. Del Young, Kim Othine as Dr. Mabel Young, and these two are not related.
Definitely not related.
Definitely not related. Christopher Pooley is Elko County Deputy Sheriff William Weaver, and Scott Glennon is going to tell the story of Montana Charlie.
Should I start now?
Okay, just wait, just wait. He's got ants in his pants and is ready to go.
I got fire.
All right. The first two presentations will be here, and then we'll go to the Stockmans, and then we'll mosey over for a wrap at Ruby's. These events range in time from over in Tuscarora in the 1870s to Prohibition in Midas during the 1930s. Sharing these stories keeps them alive and gives us a connection to our community. Now, last spring, we lost one of our cast members, our steady Eddies, and that was Andy Merrins. And Andy was LDS and didn't drink, but Andy loved to cook with wine. And after each performance, he would go around collecting the half-empty bottles of wine so he could take them home, being the bishop that he was, and put his bottles of wine in his kitchen cupboard. So let's all have a toast to Andy. To Andy, salute. And now, Mrs. Young, where are you back there?
Hey, just a minute, Jan. We're trying to get somebody settled. She's going to come with me.
She can sit next to me.
Yeah, there
She
you
also
go.
wants to be
Sit
the
at table
hostess with the
Charlie.
mostess over there.
There we go.
Are you ready now?
I am. Thank you, Jan.
All right, so take it away.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Garrett, I sure do like what you've done with the place. You know, back in my day, this was a Joss house where the Chinese would come, they would congregate and get together. It was a safe place, kind of like Livingstone's would be today. But you probably don't mind about all that. Why am I here? Well, not only is it Nevada Day, but it's coming up on the anniversary of my big court appearance. Who was right? If you took a look at the legal docket, it said Mrs. Del Harris Young. Well, I used to be, but you know, tonight we're amongst friends, so just call me Mary Jane. And a while back, Jan found me walking through the Elko Cemetery. I went to check on Del, make sure he was still dead. He was. And then she asked me if I would tell my side of the story, so that's why I'm here. I was born in 1886, blah, blah, blah. Del and I married in 1906, blah, blah, blah. The Great Depression hit. In 1930, like so many people, we just need to make something happen because we were poor and desperate. So we made our way in 1930 from southern Nevada up to the little town called Midas. Do any of you know that town? Let's see one or two head nods.
Of course.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jan. Quick geography lesson for the rest of you Nevadans. It's about 60 miles west of Tuscarora. It'd take roughly an hour to get there these days. A lot longer on those country roads back then. Okay, here's another quiz question for you. Have you heard about the Midas expression? No. Okay. At least you're honest. There's a thing called the Midas touch. We're getting a little warmer? Okay, meaning maybe you turn something into gold or You find your fortune from nothing? Well, that's what we wanted to do. Del, his brother Jack, and I, when we moved to Midas, we had this small claim and we wanted to try to figure things out. But you know, have you ever been just plain out late to the party? Yeah. So it was 1930. The big boom in Midas happened around 1906 or 1907. So guess what our prospects looked like about that time? Not great, absolutely not great. And so not great that that mother lode that was promised to be there was not there, and it was such a frustrating process. I couldn't believe we had made this move to try to find something out of nothing. So I was getting a little irritated. And not only that, though we lived in this beautiful open rural space in Midas, it got pretty lonely. And you know what? During Prohibition, the stuff you're doing now, drinking in public, alcohol was illegal. So, start to feel my pain for a moment. Here I am, in Midas, alone, and sober. All right, now you're with me. So, okay, 1930, the calendar page turned, 1931. That claim we had, well, it expired on May 1st, May Day. And even though I told myself, man, this is going to be the best, happiest New Year ever, and I started working on my garden, nothing was happening. And that Del of mine, nothing was happening with him either. Sure, he was finding his way around town to figure out the other neighbor's homebrew or their hooch recipe, but that wasn't helping me one iota. So I'll admit, when Mr. Jack Dempsey came into town, there's got to be 1 or 2 boxing fans in this crowd. Okay, there we go. Rowdy bunch I thought you were supposed to be. When he came into town, man, not only did he get those heads rolling, he turned heads. And Jan would tell you, man, he was handsome. So yeah, I was a bit starstruck, you might say. And why not? I mean, a world championship boxer had rolled into Midas, and if you've ever seen those reels, he would just get it going in the ring and get your heart racing in real life, it will. Now maybe I need a drink. But you know what I liked about Jack? He was just a nice guy. He would jump rope with the kids outside the mercantile as part of his training. And he'd rub elbows with those politicians that would come into town. Governors would show up from California during hunting season. I don't know, maybe that's why my thinking was so clouded all those years ago. All right, Mary Jane, focus. Yeah, focus. Why you're here. It was May 23rd, 1931, just after 6, about the time it is now. And I called Constable Peasley, and I told him I found my husband dead, lying face down in a pool of his own blood. Was I devastated, ma'am? I'll think about that one. But you know, when the constable came over, he asked me, Mary Jane, what happened? And I said, I heard a shot. And then he looked around and he saw that I had blood on my dress, the one I usually wore for working in the garden. I tried to tell him it was beet harvest season, but... And then there were footsteps that had gone out from the cabin to a bush near my garden. But then there was the body and a pistol that was found on the right-hand side with 1 bullet discharged. Oh, and then there's this. There was a bullet hole in the back of Dale's head from a .38.
Well, that's odd.
That's a word for it, I think, odd. And that's kind of how people treated it, oddly. Because they started asking questions and pointing fingers and getting really curious about me. And my son-of-a-gun brother-in-law could not keep his story straight. So things kind of went on from there. Again, that haze I told you about went from spring to the fall. And in November, I found myself in Elko, November 2nd it was, on trial at your fancy courthouse for murder. You gasp. You know, I want to remind you or tell you if you didn't know me from before, but I am not a cheap date, and I am certainly not a cheap court date. It costs Elko County more than $8,000 to hear my trial. Over $2,000 of that went to a consultant, E.O. Heinrich. He was a criminal pathologist who showed up from Berkeley, California. My judge came over from Winnemucca, and Joe McNamara, he was my defense attorney. But there's a little more context I need to share with you all about this time. You see, women were starting to change things. They were starting to change the fashion and wear pants. But they were also starting to raise their voice and vote and serve on juries of their peers as part of their civic duty. But I don't think it would surprise most of you to know that Elko County was rather slow.
That's hard.
Hard to believe, I know, Jan. They were rather slow in picking up on that practice. So when Judge Hawkins, think Sadie Hawkins, he came over, he gave them a royal talking to. And I ended up with 2 of the fairer sex on my side and on my jury. And not only that, but they had to special deputize Myrtle so that she could keep an eye out for Pearl, who came over from Winnemucca, and Willow from Elko, so that those gals were treated right for the week. Fair justice? So that jury of mine, that's circumstantial evidence. They took a look, they deliberated for 4 hours. On Sunday, November 8th, they found me not guilty. You want to know what's even funnier? Maybe it's not even funny. Rita Thurman of Wendover, she had some similar experience that year, and she was acquitted of murdering Ray Muncie. Let's just chalk it up to the bonds of sisterhood. So after that, I kind of faded away from the headlines, my name did. And I went back to working in my garden, and I lived a quiet life until I passed away in 1970 at the age of 84. We're coming up on the 90th anniversary of my court appearance and acquittal. So I ask you all, it's not prohibition anymore, raise a glass and join me. To the Midas touch.
To the Midas.
Happy Nevada Day and good night.
And now we'll have a quick break, eat your snacks, have another glass of wine, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks. And now for our second appearance of the night, our second ghost of the night. This is Dr. Mabel Young, who's going to tell about being a woman dentist in the early 1900s in rural Nevada, and very forward-thinking and very bold in her dress. So Mabel, come on, tell us our story.
So Jan, we had a very productive day. Freshly pulled. So like Jan said, I'm Dr. Mabel Young. You see those pearly whites. You know, there's some of you might want to come see me later. So I was born in Wisconsin, 1882, excuse me. And, you know, I always had a just love for the ruralness of Nevada. And my brothers must have too, because they settled in Nevada in Elko County. And In 1889, when I was 7 years old, I decided to go visit them with my family. My brothers Dean, William, and Richard. They had a claim over in Van Duzer Creek. They told me about these rumored nuggets the size of your hand. I didn't see any. I didn't find any. But I still enjoyed playing in the streams, looking for the gold, panning. It was a lot of fun. We also had family in Tuscarora and Mountain City. So I got to visit them and enjoy time in these communities. By the end of summer, though, I had to go back to Milwaukee. It was later said in the newspapers, because they had nothing better to do, so they pulled out everything. Everybody's business in the newspapers. It was told that they were saddened about my having to go back to Milwaukee, because I guess I was such a joy as a child. Anyway, so when I graduated, in 1904, when I graduated in Milwaukee Medical School, I was a class of 52 people. 2 of them were women. I was one of them. So even though, times were changing, women still weren't accepted or recognized as peers. So I made my way back west. I decided, I'm going to start practicing in Colorado. So I was in Colorado for a few years and got a good reputation, became a darn good dentist. It was like Nevada was still calling me. So I came back to Elko. About 1908 or 1906, I settled, decided to start up a business, and word got around. And the governor of Colorado sent a word to the governor of Nevada. Said, hey, she's one heck of a dentist. Why don't you permit her to work while she's waiting to take her exam with the state? So I did. I got to work. I set up an office in the Carville building downtown. Downtown Elko, in the Elko area, had about 800 people at this time. And even though there's only 800 people, there was still stiff competition. There was Mr. Gilland, the dentist. Whenever I put an ad in the paper saying, hey, I'm back in town, I'm ready to work on you whenever you're ready. Sure enough, he'd put an ad right below mine. Save that natural smile, he would say. Come see the dentist. So you know what I did? I put another ad right below his. Come see me. I'm up to date, and I'm guaranteed. So later on, about 1908, 09, I moved to Midas because, the boom hit. I thought, I could start a fortune, start a new business, get new opportunities, be the first dentist in Midas. So I did. I set up on West Main Street in Midas. Got really good practice, really busy for a while. And then it got even busier. Found myself as the third postmistress, the manager of a town site company where I helped people sell and buy land. Then decided, hey, what the heck, let's be a correspondent for the Elko Independent. Not busy enough. So that went on for a while, and then I got more popular, found myself going to surrounding areas. Small mining camps, ranches, anything was around the community. Because, not everybody could come to me. And I traveled these roads with my new assistant, Josie Alma Woods. And we took a buckboard. I don't know if anybody know what a buckboard is. Yeah. So we were traveling to all these places on this buckboard. And for those of you who don't know what a buckboard is, it's a very simple, very basic wagon. It has just basic flexible boards and 2 leaf springs underneath the seat. So yeah, you're bouncing along pretty good, if you tell me. So as we got busier and busier, I decided to settle down in Eureka, because it kind of became a center point. And then, you know, I thought, well, what the heck? In 1914, I got a Model T. And you know, if I was gonna run that thing, I wanna know how it worked. I paid a mechanic $50 to tear that engine apart and show me how it worked.
You go, girl.
Yeah. Because you know, if I'm gonna break down on one of those roads, I am sure as heck gonna know how to put that thing back together. Yeah. Considering I only charged $1 for a cleaning and $10 for a crown. So yeah, $50. But you know, it was worth it. But you know, in my spare time, I like to put right and produce plays. Not that I have a lot of spare time. But you know, we put on a play once. There's probably about 4 or 5 of us girls and 1 guy. All us girls decided to dress like men, wear our slacks. The guy, we got him in a dress so he could sashay across the stage. Oh, it was quite the sight. That was a lot of fun. So as we got busier, our surrounding areas became basically from Lovelock all the way to Tonopah, all in a little car. I would spend weeks to maybe even months in some of these towns. And, you know, I'd report back to the town saying, hey, I'm back, you know, if you need me. This went on for years. And then in 1927, Josie and I decided to buy a ranch in Eureka, the Willows Ranch. This went on for a while, and then it's about 1929, I was in Tonopah. Oh, and I forgot to tell you as well, I'm only 5 foot tall. So, when I'm pulling teeth, I have to sit in the patient's lap. Pull teeth. Give you an idea. So what? Oh, I thought somebody asked. So anyway, while I was in Tonopah, I had a heart attack. Yeah, kind of a bad one. So in 1929, I had to stop working, had to stop practice. Kind of became what they call an invalid. So I was told, you know, it's probably best you find a better climate to live in. So I deeded the ranch over to Miss Josie. And I made my way down to LA, Los Angeles, you'd call it. And 1939, it passed away. Just couldn't take it anymore. Heart little ticker, just wouldn't do it. So at age of 61, I passed away. But you know what? It still says to this day, my work is guaranteed. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mabel and Mary Jane. And now we're going to move over to the Stockman showroom. Take your glasses with you, and we'll hear another story about the Stockmans. There you have it.
Deputy in Tuscarora Boom Days in the 1870s and 80s. Deputy Weaver, are you back there? Are you ready?
Yes, Jim.
Raise it up and tell us your story.
Yes, you do. You don't know what I'm packing here.
To the west, to the land of the free, where the mighty Missouri rolls down to the sea, where children are blessings, and he who has most has need to his fortune and riches to boast. Where the young may exalt and the aged may rest, away, far away to the land of the west. To the west, there's well to be won, a forest to clear is the work to be done. We'll try it, we'll do it, and never despair while there's light in the sunshine or life in the air. Away, far away, let us hope for the best, for home is a home in the land of the West. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Weaver. You may call me Billy. See me in the afterlife. The rest of you folks call me Sheriff Weaver. What do you think about that song? I heard it for the first time when I was 5 years old. When I was 5, the year was 1848. We just won that war against Mexico after they'd spilt American blood on American soil. In that war, we lost 30,000 men over the course of 3 years. Among those that died was my father, John, leaving me at 5 to be man of the house to my mother and 3 older sisters. But with the victory, America expanded. We went from just the east to having Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and California. You know, we got over 500,000 square miles. We only paid $15 million for it. I don't know the price per acre on it, but I'm bad with numbers and I failed math so many times I can't even count. The point is, the frontier had expanded. And at 5 years old, I vowed to take my mother and sisters there, where we could have a life of prosperity, where I could provide for them and protect them, and one day have a family of my own. So we saved up, and as soon as I was old enough, at 16, I drove a herd of cattle from Missouri all the way to California. Once we were in California, it was 1860, in the middle of the gold rush. I worked where I could, and found a place for my mom and my sisters to settle down, to find a home. And doing that, found a wife. Beautiful woman, Stacy. Strong stock. From that Oregon territory. And we felt like we needed to make a home for ourselves. So we went back to the frontier land. About 40 miles north of here, Elko County, in a place called Silver City. It's a silver and gold mining town. The men, they worked hard. It was good. And Stacy and me, we started a little side shop with a butchery, and the men were hungry, so business was good. We made a name as being fair and upstanding. By 1870, Stacy had given me 3 beautiful children, 2 girls and a little baby, William. William, such a happy baby. He never cried. He slept all night, hardly fussed. But 1870, it was cold. And he died. 10 months old, he died. I knew we couldn't stay there. It was too hard on my Stacy. He nearly broke. And the wilderness was just a rough place for those 2 little girls, so I knew we should send them back to California. Be with my mom and my sister for a bit. Transcontinental Railroad had just finished up, so it was an easy trip. But the question came, where to go now? Should we go to California, back to Idaho, down to Nevada? You know, I used to think I was indecisive, but now I'm not so sure. I felt like I was meant to remake the West. Like, that's the whole reason I came from back east to come here, was to remake it, to bring order to this chaos. And I heard so many great things about Elko County, so Stacy and me, we came down, and we came to Elko County and stayed in Tuscarora. We bought a section of mine. It was a booming town. I loved it. I sold a little bit of the mine to a couple men from China. You know, Tuscarora had the 2nd largest Chinatown in all of America at that time?
Yeah.
It was a pretty incredible place. I thought it was great and diverse, but my Stacy, she thought it was lawless. And looking back, I think maybe that was her way of saying that she wasn't happy there. But I felt like I needed to fix it. So I saw an ad in the paper. It was asking for a lawman, and I filled that out, and I became a lawman and eventually the sheriff. And I felt like I was going to make things safe for Stacy and the girls would come back. So going about my duties as sheriff, I spent some time at the local saloon, the Idaho Saloon, one of 25 saloons at the time. And while I was there was a waiter from another establishment come in. His name was Harry Baldwin. And he was stirring folks up. He was telling them that he was Buffalo Bill. He wanted to fight him. Most of the patrons weren't going to have any of that, but he found somebody our local bread maker, the baker. And the baker took him up on that offer. They had words, and then they went to fists, and then they went to the floor. As sheriff, I knew Harry. I knew he was a bad character, and so we had him leave. We dealt with the situation. The only thing that had been harmed was Harry's pride at this point. And about an hour later, Harry came back in, looking fairly somber, and he came up behind that baker and he stabbed him in the eye with a pocket knife. That baker had to wear an eye patch the rest of his life. And it changed him. He used to be a really nice fellow. No matter how friendly people were after that, he never saw eye to eye. You know, my wife saw that instance with the poor baker in that accident, and she said it was too unsafe, and she wanted to leave. But I didn't want to. I felt like I could make it better. And if I just stayed, then that would be our place. I was doing well at the mine. I was making a lot of money. Over the course of 10 years, Tuscarora produced $40 million worth of silver. 40 million, and there was only 5,000 people in that town. So we were all doing pretty well. But Stacy wasn't having it. She asked for a divorce.
Damn it, Stacy.
I took it a little hard, but I knew she'd come back. The money was good. And, about a year later, we were working at the Delta. I was sheriff, so anytime I'm out and working. But we were playing cards at the time, and then we saw the baker. He came in, which was nice because he hadn't been out much since the accident. And his wife was out of town visiting her sister. He decided to play with us, and I'd never seen the baker play, so I didn't really know. But I shouldn't be surprised because he rose to the occasion.
Oh,
Well, the baker, he was good. He started winning a lot. And he was beating the snot out of us, to be honest. He went undefeated for several hours, and then finally he lost the hand. We got pretty excited about it. We got a good laugh. But that baker, he didn't think it was quite as funny. He wanted to fight over it. The baker lost 50 cents. He lost 4 bits, and he wanted to fight over it. And tried to calm him down a little bit. He wasn't having it. So he had too much to drink. He got up on the table, pool table, and said,
"You stupid sheriff! You can't do your job! You'll never catch me!"
And it was all talk. And he pulls out his pistol, starts waving it like an idiot. I knew that he should just take his winnings and go home. But then he started firing. And I didn't have a choice at that point because it was my duty to make things safe. We both shot everything we had, and then I killed him. A man with a wife who loved him and a little boy, and I shot him over 50 cents. I was supposed to come to Tuscarora to make things safe. I was supposed to come to the west into Elko County to live this life of prosperity. You know, the baker, when I shot him, he ended up shooting me right through the guts. It hurt something awful, but I knew that I would make it because it was my destiny. And then the next morning, he died. To the west, to the land of the free, where the mighty Missouri rolls down to the sea, where children are blessings and he who has most has made to his fortune and riches to boast.
Unfortunately, all the people explain wrong and kills the duty. But we can go on for about 5 more years with Sling Lawman stories. So we try to honor them in our presentations every year. And thank you, Deputy Weaver, for your presentation. All right, don't leave your glasses. You have one more stop. And we're going to head to Ruby's for our final activity. Thanks.
Come in, Mike. Can I see Mike? Hold on, everybody. It's time to use the microphone. Are you ready? Can you hear her?
Are you sure?
All right, Montana Charlie.
Yes! I'm not in the mood anymore. I'm not in the mood.
Wait, no, we already made it. Montana Charlie's going to tell the story of the rough and wilds of Elko in 1877. All right, tell us your story.
Let's everyone give a round of applause to Jan Petersen. Nobody can hurt cats not coming in there. Now I want to tell my story and I want to thank everyone for listening. Make sure you get a bidet. A bidet always makes you feel good. You know what I mean? Focus, a bidet. Thank you. Oh, bidet. No matter. Hey, look or something. So I want to thank you all. You all have a good time tonight. At least. Alright, my story, I'm Charlie Davis Silverstein. I like to fight. I got a standing fight appointment with at least 5 of you people here tonight, so I will wrap this up. I like to fight, I like to drink, and I like women. Alright. Thank you. That's my story. Hold on, I'll get more. For those of you that don't know, I'm about to tell a true story. So man, if you cry, go with it. Just let it happen. You will find me on most days haunting the Stockman swimming pool. That's where I was when I died. It wasn't a swimming pool at the time, sir. It was a bar. It was called the Corner Saloon. It was a lot like this room, except it was smaller. It was more rectangular. Really bad lights. It was all wood. And there was a guy over there with cut hair. But there weren't videotapers, so it's just like that moment. Are you with me, sir? Very good. So moments before I died, I was like this. Now, the reason I had gotten like that, turns out you don't want to hear about. Because I said to Jan when she said, would you like to be a ghost Montana Charlie? I said, yes, I will tell them how I was born in California and I came west. And she said, nobody wants to hear about that. I said, that's fine, I'll tell them how I became a prize fighter and I learned how to use my fist and kick ass. And she said, nobody wants to hear about that. And I said, I'll tell them how I pushed horses to Montana. And it was in Montana that I derived the name Montana Charlie. And she said, ain't nobody care about that either. I said, what do they care about? She said, they want anybody to die. So here we are. I was sleeping just like that. Are you with me, man? All right. Now, at this bar, there was in 1869, there were over 44 bars in Elko, and in 1877, there was at least 40. All right. So I was drunk at the Corner Saloon, and you might say, why were you at the Corner Saloon, Charlie?
Why were you at the Corner Saloon, Charlie?
Well, because right up on Idaho Street where the whorehouse is. Yes, and I said whorehouse because it's just a word. We can't be afraid of words, folks. Man, it was real. Sorry, good one. So I passed out in that chair right there sleeping. And the bartender's name's Bob Crozier. He's what you call a freak. He's been wandering around for 48 years, drinking and being a bartender here, there, Palisades, Wells. He don't matter because he was at the bar that night. Then when you guys got here, they said, let's go to the whorehouse and see if Baldy's free. Woo! Now, if y'all know who Monticello is. That means you're a regular Elko in 1877. Because Molly was a hard-working citizen. And everybody loved to work with Molly. To the point. I'm passed out like this. Charlie. Well, no, that's me. Who was the guy? Oh, yeah, Bob comes from the guy who killed, son of a, hate him. Then the guy cut hair. They went to the whorehouse, and they found Molly, and they said, Molly, you want to come back and drink at the Corner Saloon? And Molly said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And there you go, they started doing this. Yeah. Now, I don't know if y'all ever been passed out in a bar at like 11 o'clock at night in Elko. I know I got some friends out here. Well, when you're like this, and a bunch of hot ladies walk in, it's kind of like this. So Bob and the hair guy and the other people are dancing around, and that's when Bob made a dance on Molly. And Bob said, hey, Molly, you want to come hang out? And you know, Molly said, actually, I'm wondering where Bill is. And that made Bob mad. Bob realized he wasn't going to score with Molly. So you know what Bob did? He started bad-mouthing her, calling her words like floozy. And I said, there is a line. So I was like this. And he called her a floozy, and I said, Bob, that's about enough talk out of you to Molly like that. And Bob said, well, yeah, maybe you want some of this, Charlie. And I said, Bob, if it wasn't for the gray hairs on your head, I'd have knocked you down. And now what I said was a cuss word, but I didn't say it just now. I knocked you down. So Bob said, oh, okay. And he went back behind the bar. And Bob found the gun that was behind the bar. And then Bob's a man because he got a gun. And he pulled the gun out and he said, well, maybe he wants to gun. And he shot it.
Oh, no.
And now, for some reason, the bystander said, I shouted out, I am killed. All I remember was, oh, God! So I started to fall dead. And Bob comes around the bar and he starts to mess on me with his gun. But I grabbed Ernie and I threw Ernie in front of me. But it turned out Bob shot me through the heart, so it was only a matter of time. My legs started giving out. And Bob fired again and we both hit him. And it was at that moment that Elko lost one of its best billiard tables. I too was dying on the floor, but the billiard table was lost that night for sure. And as I lay there dying, well, that's really all I did. So I lay there dying, and then I died. Man, this is the part where the tears can flow freely. I'll wait for it. So anyway, Bob done what he did, and he went behind the bar and sat. Next thing you know, the sheriff shows up, and this is where the story becomes about the silver-tongued lawyers. Any lawyers in the house? Because you're going to hate this part. Okay. So anyway, Bob should be hanged. Oh, killing dead. We got a new courthouse right over there. Do it. Who's with me? No, silver-tongued lawyer said, we got a problem here. We can't have a trial now, because there ain't going to be an unbiased jury, because Molly knows every single man in town. So Bob should have died. He didn't. And they moved the whole trial to Winnemucca. And it was right there that I turned to my grave. Because justice was denied. And it hurts, folks. It hurts turning. Anyway, we're in Humboldt County. Bob got what he wanted. He's on trial for death. And it turns out he was found guilty. But that's when the silver-tongued lawyer got involved again. He talks to the Nevada Supreme Court, and the Nevada Supreme Court talks to people and says, oh, wait a minute, hold on now. There may not be enough evidence to actually convict him of first-degree murder. We can't kill him. But you all here, you all heard my story. There's not enough evidence. Anyway, I turned in my grave again. Well, 2 months waited for Bob to finally be pronounced by the Supreme Court guilty. And he was hung by his neck tomorrow night, 1877. Can I get a woo? So tomorrow night, turning in my grave. Just know that's Bob. That's Bob getting what he deserved. This is a final lesson. Watch out for Molly. And thank you all for coming out tonight. I'll be at the swimming pool.
Thank you, Bob, for showing up.
Charlie.
Charlie. Whatever your name is. This happened in 1877. They're all related. So this concludes our second annual Ghost Tour. And I want to present all of our speakers again, our presenters. So, Mary Jane, where are you?
She's in the alley.
The DBA in November, and the Snowflake Festival will be the second Saturday in December, whenever that is. And what else am I supposed to remember to tell you?
Is there a raffle?
That these guys are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah, you get to take me home.
Check with your wife.
All right.
See how it works out.
Everyone should all come back next year for our 8th annual tour, and we'll have new dead people next year. And Lori here at the Ruby's is reminding me that there was karaoke afterwards, and have a beignet before we leave, please. Beignet, is that right?
Not bidet.